Good morning, all. Uh, Welcome to Learning Thoughts YouTube channel. So this is Ramana of Lucknow. So today we are going to discuss Agile testing process. So today topic next to 1 hour I will be explaining you Agile testing process. Okay. So what is what is Agile testing? So the objective of the today's session. So to understand today's session, you may be having the basic agile knowledge, maybe the prerequisite basic testing concepts. So these two are the prerequisites to understand the today's session agile. And if you are completely new to testing, still you can attend, but you may not understand everything. So today, to understand agile testing process, so basic prerequisites are very fundamental concepts. You need not expert in agile. Fundamental concepts of agile, fundamental concepts of testing, you need to understand. Okay. So with this introduction, we will start the session. So first of all, there are so many differences between how testing we perform in traditional projects and how we perform testing in agile projects. So what are those differences? How we do testing in agile projects? What are the challenges we face, in agile, as an agile tester? What kind of challenges you face in agile projects? So I wanted to explain you. So differences between traditional testing versus agile testing, challenges of an agile tester, and how testing happens in each phase of agile project. Because if you work in agile project, there are several phases like project initiation, release planning, sprints, deployment, closure. In each phase, in each phase, how testing is how testing should happen. So these three points agenda. Mainly, I'm going to cover 3 points agenda. Number one, differences between agile testing. Number two, challenges. Number three, is how we perform that agile testing types, in various phases of the project. Various phases of the project. So that is the today's agenda of the session. So what is agile testing? What is agile testing? I wanted to cover what is agile testing. Okay. So agile testing means, so agile new features to the market in a very short span of time. As you know, agile teams are required to release new features to the market in a matter of weeks, not in months or years. That you call it as sprints, iterations, releases, whatever it is. So this is the main key point. So agile teams are required to release new features to the market in a matter of weeks, in a series of sprints or iterations, because its main focus is on satisfying customer focus. If you look at Agile Manifesto, Agile main focus is satisfying the customer requirements. So the challenge is how to test and comprehensively as development velocity increases. So whenever we are progressing sprint by sprint, so how to test those story codes, features rapidly and comprehensively, speed and detail. So we have to do more and more regression testing end of every iteration, and the speed of regression testing or the speed of testing. So the challenge to the agile tester, how to test features rapidly as the team progresses. So with this introduction, so we try to understand what is agile testing. Okay, so guys, like one suggestion, if you have any questions, I will give you last 10 minutes as an opportunity to speak with you. So first focus on understanding, like so first like understand next 45 minutes what is agile testing. Last 15 minutes is for your doubts clarification. So what is agile testing? So agile testing begins at the, like so onset of a development project and involves the ongoing integration between testing and development. Okay, so generally, like testing was a, if you worked in a waterfall projects, so testing was a separate activity that came after the coding phase. But in agile, testing is continuous. Putting testers between product owners, like tester. So testing is rapid, comprehensive, and continuous testing, and continuously we are testing, and we are continuously collaborating with product owners and developers. So so this creates ongoing feedback loop which helps developers improve their code. So agile tester is helping the develop agile tester creates an ongoing feedback loop. So you are doing continuous testing. So three words till now. Agile testing is rapid when compared to traditional testing. Agile testing is comprehensive. Agile testing is ongoing and continuous feedback, so that developer can correct before end of the sprint. Involved in the issue. The whole team is passionate about quality. It is not about one team, it is not about one, so there is no separate testing sub team. Please understand, the entire team is involved in quality assurance. The whole team is passionate about quality. Developers build unit test cases for better testing process and to enhance the quality audits. So developers also follow recommendations of the testers for test requirements and code improvements. So don't expect a separate agile testing team kind of thing, or there is a separate testing team kind of thing. It is not only tester who part of the Scrum development team responsibility. It is entire development team responsibility to deliver the quality code to customer, because satisfying the customer is one of the, customer satisfaction is also one of the agile principle. Okay, so in agile testing principles, so these are the key, attributes of agile testing. Key attributes of agile testing: communication with product owners, close interaction with the developer. Remember, the quality responsibility is entire team, not only tester who involved in the Scrum development process. As a team is accountable in Scrum. That is the important Scrum value actually. So I can say here I wanted to present you few agile testing principles. I wanted to present you few agile testing principles. Number one, continuous testing. So agile teams perform tests regularly to make certain that product is continuously progressing. Testing is done in conjunction with development, like continuous testing. So because one story code in your agile project, if you look at the sprint planning, so once you identify the user stories, and every user story has development task, testing task kind of thing. So continuous, agile team performs tests regularly to make certain that the product is continuously progressing. To continuous feedback. So testers provide continuous feedback to the team members. Members regularly receive feedback regarding quality rather than requirements. Involving the whole team. Quick feedback. High level software quality. Less documentation. So teams use reusable checklists. Agile development focuses on current customer needs rather than comprehensive documentation. If you remember, so when you worked in a traditional projects, earlier, so testing used to start with test strategy or master test plan, then each level test plan, so then test scenarios, then test cases, then test results, like that heavy documentation we use it to maintain. Now, so because of the agile, the shift is towards less documentation. So teams use reusable checklist. Agile development focuses on current customer needs rather than comprehensive document. and testers evaluate the product at the time of implementation rather after implementation. So so most of the traditional projects first develop then test, but here develop and test parallelly, continuously. So customer satisfaction, customers are exposed to their product during the development. See, one thing guys, with my practical, my experience, what I can say, agile, because because of, see, agile projects are less risk. Why? Every sprint we are testing and giving to customer. So I can say, I can rewrite this statement, because of agile testing, because of agile testing, so now you are quick, I mean, so with low risk kind of agile testing is directly proportional to risk. That means, sorry, inversely proportional to risk. So if you are doing a very early and continuous agile testing, low risk, I can say, you can easily give to customer, and it definitely it is not going to be fail as a complete product, because every sprint outcome you are delivering as a increment. So every increment is a tested increment. So agile testing is contributing to low risk nature of the project and high customer satisfaction. Low risk nature and high customer satisfaction. Okay, so here, agile testing, so first, whenever developer write the code, so immediately unit testing and component testing has to be done. That also it is better to automate like JUnit or JBehave, some kind of automation tools, Selenium. So whenever that is done, then second, some more functional tests will be done with more examples, more negative testing, with more simulation of more inputs. Okay, so this may be done at a, developer who written the code may have done, may be doing this test immediately. Tester who is the part of the Scrum development team will be doing this test by using both manual and automation. So how this exactly happens in real time, I'll be explaining you step by step in few minutes, after few minutes. So here, so every sprint, tester is, if it is a new user story, for example, you are in the sprint 3. So sprint 3 stories, sprint for newly added sprint 3 stories, tester might be doing detailed manual functional testing. For existing running tested features, we call it as, when I say running tested features, so to test, because of the code changes happened for the sprint 3, to ensure the previously code was not broken, to ensure that, so sprint 2 regression testing we do. So the sprint, let's say you are in sprint 3, for newly added stories of sprint 3, teams may be performing manual testing. The previously, for previous sprint code, teams may be performing automation testing. So that's why, so tester who is the part of the Scrum development team will be doing both manual and automated functional testing as a step 2. Okay, step 3. So once during the sprint review or informal sprint review or formal sprint review meeting, which happens at the end of the sprint, like no, so the business owner or product owner, end users are doing UAT feedback they are giving, usability feedback they are giving, and they are doing some they explore the application, give us some the feedback. And finally, so after a couple of sprints, generally how we release the project, so how we release, every sprint you give demo to customer, but you may not deploy to customer, may not deploy to customer, but after 3-4 sprints we integrate the code and we deploy to customer, which we call it as a release. So end of every release we'll be doing a detail, performance testing, security testing, more UAT testing. So I can say this testing divided into 4 quadrants in Agile. So first quadrant unit component, second quadrant functional, third quadrant usability UAT, fourth quadrant performance security non-functional. So how these 4 quadrants fits into your Agile project, how these 4 quadrants fits into your Agile project, I'll be explaining you very soon, so in the same session, just hold on. So there are four quadrants of Agile testing. So first quadrant unit and component testing, second quadrant functional testing, third quadrant exploratory testing, fourth one performance testing. Okay, so this is what we discussed till now. So tests that relate to code quality, like including like unit component test. So like that, four quadrants of tests are there. So yeah, so before we understand the practical approach as a last topic of like agile testing theory in the theory. So I there is an interview question like agile testing. Can you correlate with agile manifesto? Because you might be already familiar about agile manifesto. So what can you can some like what is agile manifesto? What is agile manifesto? Number one, individuals and interactions over the process and tools. So I'm going to compare or like I'm going to map this with the agile testing concept. So agile manifesto principle 1, individuals and interactions over process and tools. Principle 2, working software over comprehensive documentation. Principle 3, responding to change over following a plan. Principle 4, collaborating with customer over contract negotiation. So recently one of the interview question, like this question is asked to one of my student scrum master, like so my one of my student attended as a scrum master. So in the scrum master interview they asked the scrum master, so can you compare, as can you map agile manifesto with agile testing? So what agile manifesto says, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So testers should work closely with the developers, product owners and customers to understand what is being developed, who it is for, and what will make it successful. So individuals and interactions over processes and tool is one of the key point in Agile Manifesto we call it as. So how this is applicable to testing? So testers should work closely with the developers, product owners and customers to understand what is being developed, who it is for, what will make it successful. And luckily, how the agile is designed, in my opinion, it is so favor to tester who is part of the, who is associated with the development team. How this is associated with the development team? How this is associated with the development team? Number one, sorry, how this is associated with the testing team? Number one, see here, when compared to waterfall model, requirements are expressed in user story format, user point of view. So here testers are easy to gain domain knowledge or user mindset. So how tester can easily understand user mindset in agile project? Four opportunities. Opportunity one, requirements in agile projects are expressed in the form of user stories. So it is easy to understand what really user is expecting in agile when compared to waterfall, because tester has to think like an end user and test the application. So end user perspective requirements are given in agile, but if you go to waterfall model, so the requirements which are given in waterfall model, so they are like detailed and functional and technical perspective. Here, so the requirements of agile projects are given in the form of user point of view. So agile how it is designed is in favor of tester. That is what my like opinion. So one, how it is easy for agile, it is easy for tester in agile. How? One, requirements are expressed in user point of view, so user can easily understand. Number two, in waterfall project, so very less communication we have with the BR business owners or product owners. So there, like we used to struggle, because as a tester, whenever requirement is given, as you know, so requirement analysis we do, and if you get a list of doubts or queries kind of thing in waterfall model testing, so like we consolidate all the doubts and we give it to test lead will submit to BA. Whenever BA is having free time, he will conduct a meeting. But unlike waterfall model, here we have more collaboration, continuous communication with the business, so that in every discussion we understand how this functionality, how this feature, how this user story, how this requirement in agile is going to helpful to the business. We are thinking the business point of view, and we are correlating with the business value. So user stories are helping us, continuous collaboration with the product owner is helping us, and the third one, So end of every sprint, we are getting opportunity to directly interact with the key stakeholders, business users, kind of, and we are getting the real feedback on already what we built in previous sprints, how they utilized, and we are getting the feedback. So this is actually very good point for tester, because so I have seen projects like I have seen projects like testers use it to test entire product in a single go. So test the entire product as a single go. So when they are testing entire product as a single go, it is very high risk. There is high chance that customer may reject it, or we get more post production defects. Then you do root cause analysis, all this impact analysis, all these things comes into picture. It leads to a lot of rework. But luckily here, so you are collaborating with customer, and you are asking customer in the sprint review meeting, hey, like last sprint we delivered something, how it is going, are your users really using it, what is the feedback, are you getting business out of it, do you see any changes we have to do, we are ready to do changes, we are going to do changes in the next sprint. So you are getting the real customer feedback. This is the beautiful point for agile tester. Okay, so these 3 points especially, guys, these 3 points are, of course, people will tell, so agile testing is very difficult here, because in agile testing we have to do automation testing, continuous regression testing, so we are not getting time, our project is agile kind of thing, I know those all those things. But so if you logically think about it, see, agile testing enforcing us, agile testing asking us to improve our technical skills to automation, that is one thing, this is good only, right? And second one, agile testing gives opportunity for continuous customer and developer communication, again a good point. And agile testing, like agile is giving opportunity to, like continuous changes, it is also good only. So you are how, like the business is we are adapting to business in terms of responding to their changes. So what I wanted to tell, so like forget about, like agile testers are too busy, agile, because every 2 weeks we are getting a work kind of thing, and agile testers are more technical skills are required in agile tester, yes, those are good points only. But if you look at the overall how agile is designed, in my perspective, this is agile is designed in favor of, like agile testing team. It is favor to agile testing team, because requirements are expressed in user stories, number one, giving opportunity for continuous customer collaboration, number two, and sprint review meeting, you are getting the real end user feedback. So it is the team is not going to fail, so low risk kind of. So these 3 points, remember, like so very important. So agile is designed in favor of tester, it is my opinion, it is my opinion. Next, so like that's why, so one, as I told, like I used to deliver scrum master coaching, agile coaching, product owner, this kind of trainings I used to offer. And one of my student asked me this question, sir, like in one of the session the question was, like can you compare, so can you compare, like agile manifesto, so can you compare agile manifesto and testing? So this is the first point. And second, agile manifesto, working software over comprehensive documentation. So testers in the agile world, do not have a book of requirements, like they can test against. They need to carefully define and refine acceptance criteria together with their teams and test against those criteria. So, like so in agile manifesto, working software over comprehensive documentation. So if you look at the agile requirements, it has only story, like acceptance criteria, story description, acceptance criteria, story description, acceptance criteria. So that acceptance criteria is a baseline for our testing. So like very detailed documentations like test strategy, test approach, test plan, so those things may not be required, because every story has a acceptance criteria. And build, as a tester we have to build our tests based on the acceptance criteria. So if time permit, I will show you few stories and acceptance criteria also. Based on that, how we are building the acceptance tests also, I'll give examples. Okay, so first understand the concept, then only I try to give project examples based on the timeline we have. Okay, and fourth principle, so responding to change over following a plan. So responding to change over following a plan. So agile testers must prioritize and reprioritize their test, focusing on what will help them to reach the goal. So see, agile testing, one important aspect, guys, testing optimization. Because see, in agile, so I'll show you one. I thought of showing you later, but I wanted to show you. Just give me a few more minutes. I'll come to the practical approach of agile testing. So, like in agile testing, responding to change. So, agile test optimization, because every new sprint we have to do new test, and we have to ensure the previous code was not broken. So, every new sprint we have to do previous sprint regression testing. So like every new sprint, if you have to do regression testing, then it is like taking, like we have more suite of test cases and we have very less time. So how we can, like how we can complete regression testing in very less time. So we have so many solutions like automation. But one thing you want to understand, so tester has to continuously focus on what has to be tested, what need not to be tested, kind of thing. So this focus is very important. So responding to change or following a plan. So if someone asks you suddenly in interview, so what are the agile principles, can you map this with agile tester? So that's why I, like I try to explain. That's why I try to explain. Now we are going to understand, so testing in practical approach. So agile testing in, like agile testing in practical approach. So till now we have, like till now we discussed agile testing, like theoretically. So let us try to understand, so agile testing with practical examples. Agile testing with practical examples. Okay, so look at this. If you look at this slide, if you understand this slide, so these are the different phases of agile project. These are the different phases of agile project. So every new agile project starts with project initiation, followed by release planning, sprint zero. Then every release has series of sprints. Every sprint outcome will be demoed to customer, and final sprint of the release is deployed to customer. Okay, and like that, if all the releases are complete as per the your agile delivery strategy or agile release plan, then the project will be closed. So these are the different phases of agile project. Now you need to understand. Now you need to understand each phase. I'm going to explain you each phase how. So, okay, this phase one. What kind of testing activities happens in phase one? What kind of testing activities happens in phase two? What kind of testing activities happens in phase 3? What kind of testing activities happens in phase 4? So what kind of testing activities happens here? So each phase, practically in our project, what kind of testing or QA activities happens, we have to understand. That is the discussion now. So coming to testing in phase 1, that is project initiation. So testing in phase 1, that is project initiation. So testing in phase 1, that is project initiation, where, like project manager, architect team, tester lead, so these three people involved. And what they do, so what they do, so what they do, so testing and project initiation, what they do, so they create a agile test plan. So I mean, in each sprint, yes, definitely, like definitely the testing flow may change, but overall for the entire project, so a high level agile test plan can be created here. An agile test plan can be created here. Okay, so in that agile test plan, they define, so what is the testing criteria to be followed in the project, and it's a high level agile test plan would be defined. I'll show you that agile test plan also. Okay, so what happens in the project, and one more thing, so they will be defining a sample definition of done will be defined. So definition of done means, here, like being a tester, you need to understand two things. Okay, so as I told, like it is better you will be having a basic agile knowledge, but this topic I wanted to tell. See, every user story has acceptance criteria. Example, Every user story has acceptance criteria. Example, let's say if you take a search page. So as a e-commerce customer, so this is my story. Let's say sample story one. Okay, so as a e-commerce customer, I wanted to buy as a e-commerce customer, I wanted to buy products online. I want to buy products online so I can save time and money. For example, this is my story. For this story, acceptance criteria could be for this story, acceptance criteria could be like number one, customer 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 can must buy customer must buy within 3 minutes of time. I mean, so lengthy flow not required. So within 3 minutes of time. So like order receipt must be sent to customer email ID and mobile number. Order receipt must be sent to user customer mail ID and mobile number. Okay, so like that acceptance criteria is defined. Now based on story description and acceptance criteria based on story description and acceptance criteria based on story description and acceptance criteria, so testers will be creating tests. Testers will be creating tests that can be either manual or automation. That is a different story. Testers will be creating tests. Then, so now you understood story acceptance criteria. Then what is definition of done? So what is definition of done? So definition of done means a criteria agreed by Scrum development team and business team. A criteria agreed by Scrum development team and business team to decide or to accept or reject the story. To accept or reject the story, or to mark a story as complete, or to mark a story as complete, to mark a story as complete or incomplete, to mark a story as complete or incomplete. So there is a definition of done criteria which is defined. Example, see, generally many of us having a perception that okay, a user story given to tester, a user story given to tester, a user story given to tester 100% tested. Now we can say story complete, but this is wrong. This is wrong. So this is wrong. So story which is tested doesn't mean it is completed. So to say story is complete, so it must follow definition of done criteria. To say story is complete, it must follow definition of done criteria, DOD criteria. A sample DOD criteria I have given here. So end-to-end testing must be completed, bugs triaged and tested, code reviewed and merged, acceptance criteria met. AC means acceptance criteria, reviewed and approved by product owner, story closed in Jira, unit testing completed, functional testing, regression testing. Like that, a sample definition of done will be given. So what I say, okay, so then only story is complete. If if story satisfies definition of done criteria, then only story marked as complete. Then only story marked as complete. So then only story marked as complete. So what I wanted to say here, in agile projects, quality is embedded in the development, embedded in the scrum definition of done. So whatever the quality you are expecting, you write in the definition of done. So what kind of definition of done is required, that we will take, like, test lead help in the project initiation phase. So what is the test lead role in agile projects? Many people are having this confusion. So, like, I spoke to I spoke to many people who came to interviews, like, in my previous organization, and, like, so they used to have a confusion. What is the test lead role? What is the test lead role in agile projects? What is the test lead role in agile projects? So what is the test lead role in agile projects? So what is the test lead role in agile projects? So test lead role in agile projects, number one, test lead may involve in project initiation or at least sprint 0 release planning. So guys, if you have any questions on agile basics or sprint 0, all these things, I have my agile playlist, and every month in quality thought we conduct agile free training classes. So you can enroll to that. So this session, as I told, there is a prerequisite for this session. Basic agile knowledge is important. So test lead may involve in project initiation, release planning to create test plan. So agile test plan, to create agile test plan document, number two. So test lead help the scrum development team. So test lead help the scrum development team in guiding team to define definition of done. So test lead may help the team how to do tests based on acceptance criteria. Okay, so like this I can write a number of points, and one important point. Okay, so in many projects I have seen this, guys. Test lead, like, our senior tester may join as a cross functional team member in scrum development team. So it is better at least one senior tester to continue as a team member in scrum development team. Okay, but, like, before sprint starts, what is the test lead? I can say this. Okay, so here, like, so now, so very first thing, what is the like, project initiation. So what is the project initiation? Okay, so what is the project initiation, like, what is the testing team role in project initiation? So during the project initiation, so I can say this is the testing team role. So during the project initiation, I can say this is the testing team role. What is the testing team role during the project initiation? What is the testing team role in project initiation? What is the testing team role in project initiation? Okay, so hope this is clear. So hope this is clear. What is the testing team role in project initiation? Then we'll move on to the next role. See, I mean, before we understand how testing, so so here, during the project initiation, test plan will be created, identifying the test environments and infrastructure required to perform the testing. So during the project initiation, what happens in the testing phase? So test plan will be created, identify the test environments and infrastructure, define the project test approach for tests to be done during each sprint. So these consist of code reviews, unit test, assembly test. Define the project test approach for the test to be done. Okay, so it is recommended to perform assembly test or integration test or product test or performance and regression test as soon as each user story is built. So this kind of guidelines will be given as a first step, that is testing in project initiation. That is what we discussed till now. Now second scenario, so step 2. Okay, so what is a step 2 in Agile project? What is a step 2 in Agile project? Sprint 0. So what happens in Sprint 0? In Sprint 0, release level test plan. So during the project initiation, let me show you. So remember this, right? Project level test plan will be created. Release level test approach will be defined. Here our actual testing happens. So project level test plan will be defined. Release level test plan will be defined. So project level test plan will be defined. Your release level test plan will be defined, and every sprint will undergo testing. So during the sprint 0, a release test plan or test approach will be defined. So how it will be defined? See this. Agile testing step 2. So detailed release level test plan will be created. Yes, you need to understand this first. So if you understand this slide, at least you will gain some basic knowledge on how testing happens in Agile projects. Okay, so for example, what is a release in Agile project? Let me explain in detail. What is a release in Agile project? So what is a release in Agile project? So what is a release in Agile project? For example, every new release in Agile project starts with sprint 0. So during sprint 0, release level test plan will be created. Release level test plan will be created. So during sprint 0, release level test plan will be created. So during sprint 0, release level test plan will be created. Let's say sprint 1. So what is your release? Your release contains, for example, let's say one release contains sprint 0, sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4. So this is a planning sprint. So this is a deploy sprint. So during sprint 0, so release level test plan will be created. During sprint 0, release level test plan will be created to during sprint 1, see this diagram. So sprint 1 functional tests will be done. Sprint 1 functional tests will be done for the user stories, associated with sprint 1 backlog, for the user stories associated with sprint 1 backlog, for the user stories associated with sprint 1 backlog 2. Okay, so during sprint 2, sprint 2 functional tests we have to do for sprint 2 backlog, and sprint 1 to check the impact of changes happened for sprint 2. So previously working code must not be broken. So to ensure that so sprint 1, so like during sprint 2 we have to do sprint 1 regression test, because here, like, there is a metric, one important testing metric also I will teach here. One important testing metric for agile projects. There are many metrics. One important agile metric for agile projects, number 1, so that metric is running tested features. So when I say running tested features, so percentage of tests failed or broken because of, like, because of changes made to current sprint. That means, so those are percentage of tests. Example, percentage of tests working in previous sprint and percentage of tests working in previous sprint and failed in current sprint. This we have to be very careful. If this number is increasing, that means we are in the wrong direction. You need to, like, really our development team has to check thorough code reviews, or, like, code design kind of. Okay, so now, but here one limitation. So every sprint we have very little time. The sprint itself 2 weeks time. You may not do detailed regression testing kind of thing. Very selective automated regression testing only we can do. For example, so then during sprint 3 also same. So sprint 3, so what happens in sprint 3? Sprint 3 functional tests. So sprint 3 functional tests for sprint 3 backlog and so sprint 2 regression test. So okay, now the last sprint of the release. What is the last sprint of the release? Sprint 4, as per this convention. So this sprint 4 is also called as deploy sprint. This sprint 4 also called as deploy sprint. So this sprint 4 is also called as deploy sprint. So what do you mean by this deploy sprint? So this deploy sprint main purpose is sprint 4 new functionality tests we do as well. Here, so this is the final sprint. This is going to be deployed. Here every sprint we given demo may not be deployed, but here it is going to be deployment. So here, so end-to-end regression testing or more detailed regression testing will do. End-to-end regression testing and, more detailed performance testing or any other non-functional tests required, like security. Okay, and more detailed UAT testing will be done. So this sprint we buy more time for testing, like end-to-end regression testing, performance UAT. So final sprint of the release, final sprint of the release, more time has to be allocated for end-to-end regression testing, or so more SIT testing, system integration testing, or more UAT testing, or more regression testing, sorry, performance testing. So this kind of tests, more time will be allocated final sprint of the release. So this is how testing happens in each sprint. So this is how testing happens in each sprint. Okay, so this is how testing happens in each sprint. So this is how testing happens in each sprint. That is what clearly explained here. Okay, so the next one, so current sprint, if you are working in a current sprint, you are working in sprint 3. In the current sprint, your focus will be on unit testing, integration, regression, system testing. Previous sprint, so to ensure previous sprint code is not broken, we have to do regression testing. And final sprint of the release, more UAT and performance. This is what I explained to you now. So generally guys, how testing integrated with the user story, like initially whenever the story is initiated, business analyst along with the product owner compiles the story. Once the story is kick off, then QA and developer review the story, add technical and acceptance criteria. QA involvement, so QA involved from the beginning of the story. So QA is the person who can add some acceptance criteria, because sometimes product owner or BA may not understand complete non-functional requirement. So developers and QA can contribute to acceptance criteria. They review the story, they add more details to the story, they involve in estimation also. So it is not so QA team, how QA team involvement with the story is from the beginning of the sprint. So QA involved in acceptance criteria, adding acceptance criteria. QA involved in story point estimation for the user story. So whenever the sprint starts, so QA involvement with the in Scrum project, the story is like beginning. So once the sprint starts, so Scrum Master or someone moves the story to sprint backlog to enable developer to pick up the story. And so in Scrum projects, Scrum developer and Scrum tester. Tester is part of the development team. So he involves in selecting the story, adding the details, and once developer writes the code. So meanwhile, so generally once the story starts in progress, then developer builds the code. Okay, so developer builds the code, and tester is going to prepare QA tests, either manual or automation. Once it is done, then code will be given to testing, and tester execute the code. If any bugs are there, the immediately tester reports it to developer, and once it is complete, then it will be closed. So what I wanted to tell here, so testing involvement is with the beginning of the tester involvement in agile project in every stage of the project. So even before your current sprint starts also, pre-sprint also, tester involved in story kickoff, and once sprint starts, tester is going to be adding the details, and once the development in progress, tester is writing the code. Once the development is done, tester is executing the code. And due to any reason, if tester finds some lot of so dependencies or clarification or changes in architecture, even the story can move on to hold also by discussing with product owner. Okay, so story, one more point, yeah. So this one, we are almost 1 hour time, but 1 hour time. So I wanted to so I may not cover everything guys in 1 hour. I'll try to arrange one more session, or at least one more video in as a agile testing session 2 kind of thing. So this here, so understand first this slide. So sorry, Scrum team or tester. So team members responsible for testing and demo the software. So one day of the kind of responsibilities I mentioned here. And so how testing happens in a sprint. So sprint planning. So testers assign story points in collaboration with the developer and QA. So give informal demo to the product owner. So formal sprint review, sprint retrospective. So tester involvement is there from every ceremony and every activity of the sprint. Okay, so so here one thing you need to understand. So testers develop and test individual components, integrate. So like once, so develop and test individual components like unit testing, then integration testing, then any performing of the code, bug fixes kind of thing. And finally, what I wanted to tell, so there are differences between traditional testing versus agile testing. So in terms of, like, if someone asks you what are the differences between traditional testing and agile testing, one is independence, test planning, transparency, automation skills. Okay, so independence, test planning, transparency, and automation skills. So here, like agile tester is more independent. There is no team kind of culture. So in traditional, you get more like, so test lead will do planning. Here, like tester is involving from planning, estimation, test case writing, automation, script development, execution, defect reporting, collaboration with the development team, collaboration with business team. So tester is doing. So transparency, like so because continuously we are interacting with customers and development team, and we have definition of done, acceptance criteria, and it demands more automation skills. So if you wanted to differentiate, so agile testers and traditional testers, agile testers are more independent. So they involve in, like planning to delivery, and more transparency with the business team and development team, and more automation skills are required to work as an agile tester. So generally there are some agile testing practices like behavior driven development, or test driven development. So like acceptance test driven development, like that. So there are some kind of, like automation, like practices or framework kind of thing. So we'll be having a separate session for this, so where exactly our automation testing comes into picture. Because this first video or first session, you can consider it as a basics of agile testing. In one more session we'll be discussing, like so the automation practices like behavior driven development, test driven development. So these kind of practices we'll try to understand. And final topic, like there are some challenges in testing, challenges in agile project. So testing challenges in agile project: one, so changing requirements; two, not enough information is given to tester; continuous testing; technical skills, more technical tests. So testers who work in agile environment need to be technically savvy, helping developers with API testing, integration testing, scripting, UI automation checks with Selenium or similar frameworks. So if you are an agile tester, you must be having very good technical skills. You must be an API tester or like Selenium tester. So like testers can and should learn programming or scripting languages such as JavaScript and Ruby. Testers who are familiar with programming but lack practical experience can ask for help from developers. So testers can also learn automated testing tools like Selenium JMeter. So testers need more technical skills. With this I wanted to, like so this is one of the key challenge. If you are a tester with less technical skill, then definitely you will struggle if your project move to agile. And so one more challenge we see in agile projects is frequent regression cycle. So like developers frequently and continuously add features to the product. So this can cause regression in previous features. So testers use regression tests very frequently and rapidly. So agile testers rely on automation. So automation testing knowledge is very important for agile tester. If you say you are an agile tester, and if you say you are not having agile knowledge, automation knowledge, then like you will be struggle in your career path. So, and one more challenge, like communication is very important in for tester in agile project. If communication between developer, tester, and product owner is lacking, the agile testing will simply not work. So no quality measurement, like so one more point or one more challenge. So very less, I mean, so teams are not properly measuring the metrics of agile. People are not really measuring the metrics of agile. So metrics are important even for agile testing, like running tested features and all. So these are the few challenges, guys. Quickly I repeat what are the challenges. So agile tester challenge one, so changing requirements; 2. Not enough information provided to tester; 3. Continuous testing; 4. Technical skills; 5. Frequent regression cycles; 6. Lack of communication. 7. No quality measurement. So these are the 7 testing challenges in agile projects. So if you are a agile, so if you want to avoid these challenges kind of thing, so tester should be able to, so what tester has to do, tester should be able to react and modify their processes according to changing conditions. Don't go one fixed test plan which is created long ago. 2. Testers, do not need in-depth requirements to begin testing. So they can write high-level tests based on the acceptance criteria, and they give more value to more exploratory testing. 3. To make life easier for testers, user stories in the backlog should be expanded during the sprint planning. So tester, developers and product owners should jointly define the details of each story. So have backlog refinement meeting in agile project is a key, helpful to the tester. So tester should be technical, already we discussed, and tester should automation. So tester try to build more communication or face-to-face conversations with the developers and product owners to enable more quality kind of thing in the agile projects. So in the first video, if you look at a quick recap, in the quick recap, in the first video, we try to understand what does it mean testing in agile, or what is agile testing, key attributes of agile testing, agile testing principles, agile testing quadrants, agile manifesto and testing relationship, key phases of agile project and each phase how testing is related. So sample definition of done criteria. Okay, so testing as per Scrum guide I have not explained, as I told we have the time constraint. So agile testing, like each phase I explained. So a tester communication on a day, how testing happens in a sprint. Okay, so traditional testing versus agile testing, the fundamental 4 differences: independence, test planning, transparency and automation skills. Okay, so this BDD TDD I have not covered, that will be the second video. And 7 testing challenges we discussed. So in my second video I'll be showing you, so total I'll be giving 3 videos. One is this I consider it as a basics of agile testing. Second, I'll give more projects and practical examples. Third, behavior driven development, test driven development and automation. So that will be covered in the third. So these 3 videos I try to give you, so differentiate traditional test and agile tester. So I try to share my knowledge on traditional testing versus agile testing. So thanks for joining the session, guys. One thing I wanted to tell, so if you have any questions on agile testing kind of thing, so ramana@qualitythought.in is my mail ID. So if you want any agile scrum master certification, product owner certification, so agile coach trainings, so scaled agile, enterprise agile, kanban trainings, or how testing happens in agile projects, if you have any queries, questions or any support you need, so ramana@qualitythought.in is my mail ID. You can always reach out to us. So like you know so thanks all for attending this session. So I'll be closing the session now, and with the next session very soon we will meet any weekend. So session 2 will be, so agile testing project examples, that is for the people who already attended this session, they will understand the second one. It may not be live event, I may directly post the video in our YouTube channel, that is so we directly post in the Learning Thoughts YouTube channel. Yeah, so these are the so points from my side, guys. Now open to questions. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm available. If your questions are not answered in this live session, so please write your queries to ramana@qualitythought.in. Definitely I will be addressing your queries. I'll be giving reply in 24 hours. So any queries, guys? Any doubts you have? So I tried to I tried my best to convey what is agile testing fundamental in today's session. So next two videos will be provide more insights of agile testing. Okay. So like I think no questions. So have a nice day. I'll be closing the session. Thank you. So this video available, and so not only this video, if you want any Python videos, DevOps videos, Agile playlist, Jira playlist, such kind of videos, you can subscribe to Learning Thoughts YouTube channel, or you can go to Quality Thought website. Like we offer continuously so free courses. You can go to Quality Thought like so YouTube channel, and you can understand the what kind of um, free courses we have here, new batches. You can see the free courses schedule, or even you can access our materials also here, like video lectures, interview questions, so course materials kind of thing. So or in Learning Thoughts, in other playlist also you can watch more technical videos. Okay. So thanks all, and if you like this session, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.